How Roman influences shaped perceptions of Annwn in ancient Britain. Annwn, often translated as the otherworld or underworld in ancient Welsh and Brythonic belief systems, was a mystical and revered concept among the Celtic peoples of ancient Britain. It was not merely a place of the dead, but a realm of divine beings, eternal youth, abundance, and a land free from the hardships of the earthly world. However, Roman conquest and cultural influences significantly reshaped how the ancient Britons perceived and interacted with their own spiritual landscapes, including Annwn. The Roman conquest of Britain. When the Romans invaded Britain in AD 43, they brought with them not only their military might, but also their extensive and deeply ingrained cultural and religious beliefs. Their pantheon of gods, philosophy, and structured societal norms began to influence the native Celtic belief systems. Romanization was a deliberate strategy used by the empire to integrate conquered peoples, which often involved merging local deities with Roman gods, a practice known as interpretatio Romana, and imposing Roman religious practices. The mystical realm of Annwn. Before Roman influence, Annwn was envisioned as a paradisaical realm, a place of beauty and eternal happiness, ruled by powerful otherworldly beings. It was accessible through mystical portals, often hidden in natural landscapes such as lakes, caves, or hills. The concept of Annwn was fluid, not strictly divided between good and evil. Rather, it was a complex and multifaceted part of the natural world that was deeply interwoven with daily life and spiritual practices. Roman views of the underworld. The Romans had a structured and somewhat grim view of the underworld, largely influenced by Greco-Roman mythology. Their underworld, ruled by gods like Pluto, Hades in Greek mythology, was often depicted as a gloomy place of judgment and finality. The moral dualism of heaven and hell was not as prevalent in their beliefs, but they did have clear demarcations of the afterlife that were based on one's actions in life. The Roman focus on judgment, order, and a rigid afterlife stood in contrast to the more ambiguous and holistic view of Annwn. Syncretism and the transformation of Annwn. As the Romans began to integrate their own gods with the local deities, the perception of Annwn was inevitably altered. Celtic deities that presided over the otherworld were often equated with Roman gods. For example, the Celtic god Nodens, associated with healing and the sea, was likened to the Roman god Mars. This process of syncretism blurred the lines between Celtic and Roman spiritual beliefs, leading to a reinterpretation of Annwn that incorporated Roman ideas of order and the afterlife. Annwn and the Christian influence. While Roman paganism was a significant influence, the eventual spread of Christianity, which gained ground after the Roman Empire embraced it, further transformed the perception of Annwn. Early Christians in Britain, influenced by Roman interpretations of the afterlife, began to view the mystical aspects of Annwn with suspicion. The Christian dichotomy of heaven and hell cast Annwn into a new light, often associating it with a more infernal, hell-like place due to its underground nature and its association with the unknown. The early Christian missionaries aimed to replace local beliefs with Christian doctrine, which contributed to the demonization of Celtic deities and their realms. Annwn, which had once been a place of beauty and eternal peace, began to be portrayed as a domain of evil spirits or a purgatorial space, aligning more with the Christian concept of hell. The role of Druids and the repression of native beliefs. The Druids, as the spiritual leaders and keepers of Celtic traditions, were instrumental in maintaining the native belief systems, including the reverence of Annwn. The Romans, perceiving Druids as a threat due to their influence and resistance to Roman rule, sought to suppress them. This suppression also served to undermine the traditional perceptions of Annwn, as the Druids were its primary interpreters and protectors. The systematic destruction of Druidic sites and sacred groves, combined with the suppression of their practices, further distanced the native Britons from their original spiritual beliefs. Without the guidance of the Druids, the understanding of Annwn became fragmented, and Romanized or Christianized interpretations became more prevalent. The Roman suppression of the Druids peaked with the massacre on Anglesey. Roman troops, led by General Suetonius Paulinus, launched an assault on the island of Anglesey, then known as Mona, in AD 60 or 61, targeting the Druids who were seen as a source of resistance against Roman rule in Britain. Roman forces, consisting of both infantry and cavalry, slaughtered many Druids, along with non